Happy New Year. This is the first video I'm recording of 2017. Very likely to be my last year from what I'm told by the doctors. I'm doing chemo at the moment. Oh, there's pipes. This is this is a very annoying sensor that limits the flow when it's cold. This is meant to be like sensing your body temperature or something, so the sensor should be kind of taped to my chest, but because there are so many valves and so much pipe in the way, it's not really practical. So yeah, starting 2017 on reduced chemotherapy, so still not having the metal toxin. I've decided not to have it again, basically. Even though it's probably quite effective, well, it's partially effective. I'm not having it because it damages your nerves, and I'm already I would have like permanent burning in the upper part of my right leg. And the oncologist thinks that's probably nerve damage due to the metal toxin. So I'm on just one component of the two-component chemotherapy. So and I'm having the molecular targeting agent, not the one that gives you the skin rash, but another one called Avastin, which gives you bleeding nose and other abdominal pain and some other side effects, but so far hasn't been too bad really. So I don't have much news really. Well, no, in a way I do. I'm talking to a lot of different doctors, and they sometimes have differing opinions, not often, but sometimes. And the doctors I see that like the main oncologist who is doing my chemotherapy, the oncologist at the hospital where I used to have chemotherapy, the surgeon who did my took out the big tumour, seen him again recently. They're all kind of public hospitals, not private hospitals, and I'm using my Japanese health insurance for the treatment, and they basically can only follow the guidelines that are written by the Ministry of Health. And the guidelines for people with terminal cancer are kind of obviously try to extend their life a bit and try to make it less painful. That's called palliative care. When I see doctors at private hospitals, so namely the clinic I go to for my hypothermia therapy and also the immunotherapy, the story's kind of different because they don't follow the guidelines. I'm sure they read the guidelines and get guidance from them, but you know, the guidelines are generally going to be a couple of years out of date because it's based on the past couple of years of research, or last 5 years or whatever. Whereas, so one of the very interesting things about the private clinics is like, why do the people work there? Because it's not lucrative. They're not getting paid huge amounts of money at all. Hospitals in Japan basically have to be non-profit. And my impression is that the private hospitals don't pay significantly more than the public ones. So why do these people work there? And often, at least, so for Tokyo Clinic, for example, most of the people work there a couple of days a week. So they're working at a public hospital somewhere. They might be teaching medicine. They might be research scientists as well. And the clinic I go to, I mean, their website has just got a huge list of doctors who work there. Presumably some of them just doing 1 day a week, because it's not a particularly big clinic. So they couldn't fit all the people in. And yet, many of these people are some of the top doctors in Japan. My immunotherapist is a pioneer of immunotherapy here. Very safe to assume he's a world-class oncologist. Why do they work there? Well, one of the reasons I believe is that because they're doing private healthcare, wherever possible, they do use Japanese health insurance, but for a lot of things they can't. They have completely free choice over what medicines they prescribe. Basically, as long as it's been approved as safe, they can use it. So I think a lot of the reason that they're there is just the freedom. So it just happened to be that last time I went for the hypothermia therapy, which is the heat treatment, it was not on a day when I usually go because it's the new year. The clinic was closed on the days I usually go there. So I saw a different oncologist. And one of the things he said was that, whatever happens if I'm told there are just no options available, I just, go to the clinic and ask them to just hunt around, and they'll do their very best to give me a bit longer to live. Now, obviously, this is private healthcare. There's maybe a significant cost associated with that. The costs pile on as you have more and more different treatments. The fundraising is still going on. I think it's reached £40,000 now. Although obviously I've spent a whole bunch of that on immunotherapy and hypothermia therapy so far. But it's very sad that literally, if I get more money available, I might live longer. And it's very slim chance, but a non-zero chance of getting cured. Because if I can live another year, for example, treatment might improve. The mainstream guideline treatment might improve. I may become a candidate for the horrific surgery that I really don't want, but I may become a candidate for that. It's called cytoreduction and HIPEC. So the fundraising is at the moment it's allowed me to have immunotherapy. In the future, as I start getting weaker because of chemotherapy side effects, I'm just going to stop. Well, if I've got the money available, I'll stop having the chemotherapy at the public hospital and instead have low-dose chemotherapy at the private clinic, which is like a 5% dose of chemotherapy with other treatment to make that chemotherapy very effective. Because if you're lucky and the cancer responds to chemotherapy, but you're terminally ill, which means cancer's going to kill you, you reach a point where you just can't continue having chemotherapy because the side effects get worse and worse and worse. You're struggling to breathe. Your body is clogged up with these poisons that your body can't flush out, can't eat properly, all this kind of stuff. Well, if there's money available, again, it's not fair. It's very sad. But if there is money available, this clinic is a world leader in low dose chemotherapy. So I could have the chemotherapy there with no side effects or absolutely minimal side effects, along with things like immunotherapy and hypothermia therapy to make the chemo work better. That might give me another 6 active months of life. 6 months of my kids. Just incredible, really. And again, very sad. I am fundamentally opposed to private healthcare, because it's just not right that I'm in a very privileged position that because my sister started doing this fundraising, it's possible it's going to give me 6 months extra life, or something like that. Incredible. It's everyone should have everyone should have access to that, obviously. Healthcare is not doesn't have to be an expensive thing, as Japan proves. Japan's healthcare is cheap. Japan's healthcare is cheap because the government and the Ministry of Health and a whole bunch of doctors set what medical companies can charge, same as they do in France. So, although I often say that Japan is not an efficient country, it's an effective country. In the case of healthcare, it is both incredibly efficient and incredibly effective. Some of the best healthcare in the world, and yet they spend less as a percentage of government spending, percentage of GDP, etc. They spend less than countries like the US and the UK. UK medical care in the UK is appalling now. Still fantastic at the highest level, but the average healthcare in England is very, very poor, and the patient experience is disgusting. Really, very, very, very sad. And yet they're spending much more on healthcare than Japan, because there's no regulation of what the medical companies can charge them for some pills, for pens, for bed sheets, for cleaning the hospitals. Which is why, for example, I was at a big hospital in the UK, and yet they're not doing their own blood testing. You go there, they take the blood sample, it's sent off to a lab. Whereas in Japan, all the hospitals, they have their own, obviously they have their own blood testing labs. So how could you not? In Japan, they have a surplus of machines. So there's no waiting time for machines. There are a surplus of equipment for the staff to use, because it's ridiculous for highly trained staff to be waiting around to use a bit of equipment. It's pathetic. Anyway, I will be announcing some stuff in the future about what I'm going to try and do to improve access to healthcare. And what I'm going to try and do to improve medical care in general. So please, if you can, make a donation, if you can share my webpage on Facebook or Twitter, etc. www.matthewdons.org. That's MATTHEWDONS.org. Thank you so much for listening.